Okay, folks, welcome everyone. It is now time for the next case of criminal case. This is number 53 of 60. And it is a family affair. It's been one shocking revelation after another since arriving in Ivory Hill, Matthew. Do you mean revelations of a personal nature, Maddie? Because I couldn't be more delighted you've agreed to marry me and that we're having a baby. How sweet, Charlie. Those are indeed good tidings. But I was referring to the troubling developments surrounding the Rochester family. It was only through Senator Malcolm Rochester's removal from office that we blocked his bill to abolish free press. And now that the police commissioner has been fired, the Rochesters have lost a powerful ally. Which hopefully means we thwarted their plans to establish and govern the Rochester Republic. Of course, who knows what else the Rochesters have planned, not to mention the matter of Eleanor Halstead's release. Speaking of Rochesters, Matthew, there are reports of a body found at the Rochester Memorial. Another murder connected to the Rochesters? We've no time to lose, Matthew. Let's proceed to the Rochester Memorial at once. Kind of makes you wonder what Maddie is having. That might be Horatio Rochester.
Too much uncertainty. And like now, I know what awaits me.
Kane.
Religious gifts. I do not.
Where is the pigeon?
We'll save my home and it should be done.
Why is my life that way now?
There it is.
So many have died. You're not going to abandon me.
One of the very few benefits of a slow computer like this.
What were you assigned?
Having 5 seconds. Getting the scene in 5 seconds. Dash my wig, Matthew! That body! It's Leopold Rochester! It's obvious Mr. Rochester was murdered, stabbed in the chest with that knife. Blast this morning's sickness. I think I'm going to be ill. I'm fine, Matthew. I just need a moment to compose myself. Leopold Rochester was such a kind man. Who could have wanted him dead? I cannot help noticing the irony. A Rochester patriarch found murdered at the family's memorial. I see you've unearthed some clues, Matthew. That monocle was lying next to the victim. It must have belonged to Leopold, broken during the murder. Taking a sample of that colored substance may offer up a solid lead on his killer. But who could that cane belong to? Let's cross-check that monogram with the archives. We might have ourselves a witness. It cannot be coincidence that a high-profile Rochester is murdered when the family is embroiled in political scandal and intrigue, Matthew. We must get to the bottom of this.
The K-Bar Becker Escobar. The customized black parrot card is digital, not just the fibers.
Customers?
Yeah.
An autopsy the victim now.
Exclusively to U.S. military personnel, contractors,
And since I already have a star, why don't I do that on the monocle?
0 to 7,000.
6. Couple substance. Matthew, let's rush that colored substance you collected from Leopold Rochester's monocle to Viola. Three hours, and I got some start to collect. Sit tight, folks. Okay, now let's get the king crest out of the way. I got myself up to 7 stars. That's 1. Easy 9. Malcolm Rochester. Matthew, this cane belongs to Malcolm Rochester. The disgraced former senator was at the crime scene? The information Leopold gave us is what got Malcolm removed from office. If anyone has a motive for murder, it's him. Let's interrogate Malcolm Rochester at once. My question is Thaddeus Mulroney the one the mole in the Concordia flying squad? Senior Trooper Matthew, what is it now? You already got your pound of flesh, destroying my career. You only have yourself to blame for that, Mr. Rochester. However, we're investigating the murder of your uncle Leopold. Leopold is dead? Good heavens, I had no idea. Then how did your cane end up at the Rochester Memorial? The memorial? It should come as no surprise I was there. I am a Rochester after all. I find it therapeutic, strolling amongst the family monuments, smoking my Javanese pipe. I was merely pondering my future, but know nothing of any murder. It is rather suspicious, given the information your uncle provided led to your removal from office. Nonsense! I have nothing to hide. Ask me anything. Search the family summer house if you want. Very well, Mr. Rochester. To the family home we shall proceed. Let's away, Matthew. I already got the first star in the time attack. Oop. Two seconds. Another 10,000 coming my way. Our journey to the Rochesters' cottage wasn't in vain, Matthew. That briefcase belonged to Leopold Rochester. Let's take a look inside. And that damaged painting piqued my curiosity too. Let's reassemble those pieces post-haste. There we go. Why is this a portrait of Lady Highmore, Matthew? Why, this is a portrait of Lady Highmore, Matthew. What's this painting doing here in the Rochester home? Lady Highmore always spoke highly of Leopold Rochester. Perhaps she was a family friend. I agree, let's pay a visit to her estate. Madeline, my dear girl, such wonderful news that you and your gentleman friend are engaged. This calls for champagne. I'd love to, Lady Highmore, but I'm afraid I must decline, in light of other recent developments. Say no more. I understand entirely. Let it never be said that Minerva Highmore is a gossip. What brings you here? I never knew her first name until now. We found this painting of you at the Rochester's cottage. Leopold... Good gracious, that old thing! Leopold had his friend paint it years ago. A French artist by the name of Cézanne, I believe. Leopold and I have long been friends. I'm much closer to him than anyone in the Rochester family. I'm afraid Leopold is the reason Senior Trooper Matthew is here, Lady Highmore. I'm sorry to say he's been murdered. What? Who would harm such a gentle soul? That's what we're working to find out. Is there anything you can tell us about Leopold's recent activities? I'm afraid not, Senior Trooper Matthew. This is most terrible news. I must lie down. And the briefcase. Okay, 4, 9 RI. Nice! Toast to that. 9 energy. Cool. Now that we have the victim's briefcase open, Matthew, let's take a gander inside. An invitation. Is that an invitation you found in the victim's briefcase, Matthew? It appears Leopold Rochester was planning to attend an embroidery exhibition staged by Bernadine Rochester. Bernadine Rochester? The chief won't be happy his ladylove is mixed up in another murder investigation. But as Leopold's niece, Bernadine should be able to tell us more about the victim. As Leopold's niece, Bernadine should be able to tell us more about the victim. Let's talk to her. Three Rochesters that we have to question. Senior Trooper Matthew, I'm terribly busy. I have an embroidery exhibition to organize, and I cannot disappoint my invited guests. We're actually here about one of your invited guests, Miss Rochester. I'm afraid your Uncle Leopold has been murdered. Uncle Leopold is dead? How could this happen? We're sorry for your loss, Miss Rochester. When did you last see Leopold? Just yesterday, in fact. He seemed uncharacteristically preoccupied. But then again, everyone in the family has been rather edgy as of late. I cannot bear this, Senior Trooper Matthew. Leopold was the best uncle in the world. Another murder so soon after poor Archie's death. Is this family cursed? See, guys, and these two are finished. Alright, we have come back.
Internet for your business for 5 years. Let me repeat that. Free business internet.
I'm saddened by the death of my uncle, Matthew. I barely reconnected with him. We keep forgetting, Viola. As Horatio's daughter, Leopold was your family too. Sorry for your loss. Thank you, Matthew. Strangely enough, all of a sudden... The residue in question is morphia, a natural opiate derivative. In this liquid form, the drug is used to treat depression. You're saying you found antidepressant medication on Leopold Rochester's monocle? Indeed. However, having checked with Richard, there were no traces of the drug in Leopold's system, meaning the residue was left behind by his care. We're only going to multiply with you on the case.
A national organization is calling for a later start for schools.
The IPN recommendation is based in part on positive performance at a Hawaii.
Well, first of all, I'm actually going to repeat that because I did not... Let me see that one. Strangely enough, all of this makes the substance you found how fitting. Okay, that's what it said. And I'm going to be speeding this up. It's going to cost me 15, but that's okay. First it was Clarissa Rochester on my table, Matthew. Then Patricia. Then Archie. And now poor Leopold. If that family isn't careful, there won't be any Rochesters left. They do have a propensity for landing in hot water, Richard. Now, is there anything you can tell us about the murder? Obviously, that knife was the murder weapon. Actually, the murder weapon stuck in the victim's chest isn't a knife at all. It's a letter opener. The killer, unfortunately, wiped the opener's handle clean, but the object itself is a clue. I found this Concordia University emblem on the blade. It's a memento given to the college's graduates. I confirmed at the university's archives Leopold Rochester studied at a college overseas, meaning his killer is a Concordia University graduate. The culprit will regret graduating to murder once you have them in custody, Matthew.
So the parties have gone down. It hasn't really made a huge impact on attendance.
Alright, we have only 6 more cases and 1 more district left before we get to the conspiracy. I am looking forward to that. The people of Concordia are bound to mourn the tragic death of Leopold Rochester, Matthew. Unlike most of his family, he was a man of integrity, the driving force behind many positive ventures, like the World Exhibition. Is this murder so soon after Archie's connected to the Rochesters' political ambitions, or does some personal conflict lead to his demise? Thus far, everyone has been singing Leopold's praises. Both Bernadine, his niece, and Lady Highmore, a lifelong friend, are grief-stricken by the news. While Malcolm says he has nothing to hide, this is hard to believe.
clear from
given that it was the victim who tipped us off to the former senator's scandalous behavior. Sorry to interrupt, Matthew, but there's something you'll want to see. I found a secret library hidden in the Rochester cottage. Ooh, nice going, Diego.
Now, right now, the closure involved placing a cover over the top and over the slopes and a passive venting system to monitor the methane emissions. But the nonprofit says a system to capture and reuse the methane gas should be considered.
Of course, if you hear any other voices in the background, please disregard that. That is my local news, which I would like to not be asked about, even if it's my favorite station. I'll see you guys for Chapter 2 of A Family Affair. It's now time for Chapter 2 of A Family Affair.
The Circo Toyota Elves are celebrating the holidays early with their annual Naughty or Nice.
Let's see.
Best price sales event. Release the 2017 Tacoma Double Cab.
I was exploring the Rochester cottage and I found a fascinating statue. As I picked it up, a door slid open on the wall.
For only $29,995.
And I discovered a secret library opening onto a secluded garden.
Whether you're naughty or nice, you get
A hidden library? This sounds most intriguing, Matthew. Let's proceed there at once.
Well, folks in Southern California roasting along with the Turkey's Day, Los Angeles and Newport Beach, seeing their hottest Thanksgiving on record. Temperature 91 degrees, beating the record set in 1903. That's a while. Other nearby cities were also in the 90s or upper 80s. Good news, cooler weather expected to move into California, Southern California over the weekend. Very hot one day here. We actually saw a cool down this week just in time for in town. Most spots in the lower 80s, upper 70s, and it's a pretty decent day out there. A lot of wind in place, made it feel comfortable. Nice Thanksgiving for the most part. Cool start this morning. We had temperatures into the upper 60s at top of that, 73 in Honolulu, and Hilo at 66. It's not as cool as it was earlier in the week. We have more wind, and that keeps temperatures, believe it or not, a little bit warmer at night, mixes up the atmosphere, and it doesn't allow temperatures to fall quite as quickly. As for rain, a couple scattered showers, windward sections of Oahu, expecting a few light showers. We're continuing to watch some rain on the Humboldt coastline, and then this rain right here going to miss the Big Island, so most of this is looking just offshore. That's going to push off to the
Colored
south.
pieces.
So a couple of sunny showers, bottom line. Rain chances are pretty low for the next few days. So not expecting a whole lot of rain up until
Faded
Sunday
newspaper.
into Monday and Tuesday. That's when our rain chances go up.
Wow,
More
2
moisture
seconds
moves
already.
away. So not a huge amount of rain. Relatively dry. Late Sunday, a couple of scattered showers, and then I think a better chance Monday into Tuesday as moisture moves on in, but nothing intense. Best chance of rain will be Maui County down to the Big Island. That's where we can see some pockets of heavier rain, I think, Monday into Tuesday. So we'll keep an eye on that. But short term,
So this is the Rochester's inner sanctum. Trust them to have a hidden room in their house. Surely we'll find something in here relating to the victim.
10 to 20 tomorrow. If you like today, you'll like tomorrow.
That faded newspaper, for example, the headline features the victim's name. I'll fetch your dusting kit so you can see what's making front page news. And I agree, searching through this incoming post is also a wise course of action. I'm at a loss, however, as to what those broken pieces are. The only way to find out is to put them back together.
Likely a few extra showers and put those rain chances in for Monday and Tuesday. We'll come up when we talk about that, of course. I said warning out in the back. We've got another swell moving our way as well.
We'll take care of everything right now.
The rain's on the showers.
Yeah, it's a fast-moving shower, so nothing big, just sort of typical trading showers.
Thank you, Pete. Caring for the fractured in their final days.
One of the toughest jobs around, and tonight we salute a man who's dedicated each of his life caring for others. Meet our Hawaii MVP this month. I'm Elizabeth Tech.
I'm Robert Kiko.
I'm former join us weeknights for Island News.
At 6 and 10.
We work hard to put a smile on your face. As a
Okay.
Aloha Pacific Federal Credit Union, you get surprisingly low rates on loans. So you can buy that
You put together a broken toy, Matthew. 2 knights fighting. But look at the plaque. It reads Sir Leopold and Sir Horatio. These battling knights represent the 2 brothers. Was this toy Leopold's sentimental keepsake, or an example of sibling rivalry? Let's ask Horatio Rochester and find out.
Enjoy the best deals on all remaining 2017 Toyotas. Get 0% APR on almost every Toyota, including the 2017 Corolla and RAV4. And get 0.9% APR on the 2017 Tacoma.
3 of them are the Rochesters. 1 is Lady Highmore.
To the year-end sales event at your Toyota appliance dealers. No need to lose sleep when you
Senior Trooper Matthew, I understand you're doing your job, investigating the murder of my dear brother.
up to $400 on certain.
But could we do this later? We're a family in mourning. I've taken 2 doses of antidepressants already. We just need to ask some questions about your relationship with Leopold. This toy we found... Great Scott! I can't believe Leopold kept this toy. Oh, Leo, what will I do without you? When was the last time you spoke to your brother?
Get your head back in the game at the Mattress Firm's Thanksgiving sale.
We had breakfast together just this morning. It used to be a regular tradition, which you were keen on restarting. Both of us suffered recent tragedies, my daughter's death and Leopold's son in prison. We realized we could support each other through the tough times. I implore you, Senior Trooper Matthew, do everything in your power to find Leopold's killer. My brother's murder cannot go unavenged.
Working with patients during their dying days, a most fulfilling job.
Now that's what they do at hospice.
3.
These are the times when emotions are at their highest.
But I'm going to repeat this real quick.
Coming to terms with death and saying final goodbyes to loved ones. Oftentimes, Hospice Hawaii is there to help with that process. The care is physical, emotional, and spiritual.
I can't believe Leopold kept this. We used to play with those knights for hours as children. Those are sweet, carefree days.
The past 15 have been under the guidance of President.
Oh, Leo, what will I do without you?
There's a lot of misunderstanding of what hospice is.
Okay, that was what I didn't get to see.
Do a fabulous job of helping people when one of their loved ones is at journey's end.
Zimmer's hospice care background stretches back 30 years.
Now the letter tray.
Formed during his days as a hospice nurse. Since those days, he has helped with Hospice Hawaii's expansion in the
Postcard. There's a postcard. Visit a resting place among your ancestors sooner than you think. Resting place among ancestors? Matthew, this must be referring to the memorial where Leopold was murdered. This is a threat from the killer. I agree. Let's get this postcard to Evie. Perhaps you can trace the author of this murderous message.
awareness of what hospice is. More of an acceptance. On this day, Ken's mind is where it always is. On others.
12 hours?
Only if just for a moment, it's time to focus on him. He's our Hawaii MVP. Whenever Ken is honored, he stresses for him, work is pure passion.
I love the fact that when you sit by someone's bedside and you share a part of that journey with them, that you really have made a difference in their life. We can bring comfort when there is pain, or we can bring emotional support. I love the fact that after that person has passed away, their loved one has been able to say thank you because we made a difference in their life. It's not that repentance is
And his changed career will come to an end next week, Thursday. He's retiring. His legacy is firmly cemented in so many people's minds. Ken, congratulations on finally getting to retire.
There we go.
But I understand
Only one.
and you're still going to be working with Hospice Hawaii in some fashion or another. But I hope you enjoy
That newspaper headline reads, Leopold Rochester praises appointment of son as new bank manager. And look at the photo, Matthew. That's Rockley Rochester. We last saw Rockley Rochester in Elysium Fields. He owns a chocolate factory where one of Alistair's murders took place. According to this article, the son of Leopold is now managing the Bank of Concordia, taking the reins after Clarissa Rochester's death. I agree, Matthew. Let's speak to Rockley Rochester about his father's murder. Pretty sure that one of the murderers is a Rochester, but we'll see what happens.
Even had some really yummy cheesecake. Pomegranate cheesecake. Do you have room for any more?
How about something to satisfy your and maybe more?
Rockley Rochester? Senior Trooper Matthew is investigating your father's murder. You have our condolences. Thank you. With my brother Larry in jail and my father dead, I'm all alone. Dad and I were both inventors at heart. I just used my ingenuity to manufacture my chocolate and candy. A fact that makes your appointment at the bank unexpected. After Larry's arrest, my father felt I needed to step up and redeem our family's honor, making the most of my Concordia University education. I wanted to make Dad proud, but now that he's gone, all I can do is honor his memory. Gonna have a little surprise for you guys, but first, hold tight. Okay, and as an extra surprise for all, I'm gonna be speeding this up too. It's rare to nearly hit a dead end with my research, Matthew, but the killer's threat to your victim is as close as it gets. The address and the message are typed with a common typewriter, preventing any handwriting analysis. Wait just a sec, folks.
Thanksgiving, and you know what that means.
We'll answer that later.
Triple serving of the NFL. First game on tap, the red.
And the postmark is severely smudged, meaning I cannot trace the postcard's origin. You're not saying you found nothing, Evie. That would be a first. Not at all, Maddie. I did make a breakthrough. While nothing about the postcard offered any clues, I realized this stamp is of vital importance. You see, this is a rare inverted Benny stamp, named after the hot air balloon depicted. Only 100 of them were printed, mistakenly with the balloon upside down. Those of the particular knowledge of stamps believe the inverted Benny to be bad luck, bringing misfortune on anyone who receives it. Which leads me to conclude the killer not only had malevolent intentions, they are also an avid stamp collector. The killer is a collector of stamps? They'll be sending their letters from the prison mailroom before long, Matthew. In the meantime, let's head back to the Rochester cottage and make another sweep for clues.
Washington Johnson in the end zone, and it's a perfect pass. Extra field goal by Skin seals it. 20-10. Redskins the final.
Once again, that's my local news station. Please disregard that.
For a little. A breezy and cool Thanksgiving.
And a few isolated showers, higher rain chances on the way, though, right?
That's why we're checking out a new system brings some extra moisture, potentially some scattered showers as we head late in the weekend. The details of another swell moving towards the islands unless you're on now. Coming up, we'll get your island forecast. First thing though, Bridge Trail, a windy
Wooden
day.
box. Pancakes. Buttons.
Black Friday.
Spoon. Perfect.
Black Friday weekend.
And it's 3 seconds only.
50 customers. Plus, visit with Santa
Up to
once
4th
a
already.
week at Public Common Store only. Final Sunday. Free furniture delivery to first 50 customers. Free gifts require minimal purchase. See showroom for details. Today's only 20 to 40% off store-wide and 0 interest financing on all purchases.
Matthew, that document has something to do with the Rochester family. And look, that's Leopold Rochester's image, but for some reason it's been crossed out. Let's vacuum up those fibers and see what this document is about. And I agree, opening up that locked box may offer up a new lead. That's my 4th one.
Breezeway proudly introduces the Stronghold system, which has been designed to make leaders stronger, safer,
Examine everything.
and more secure. Locally made in Hawaii, the Stronghold is tested to withstand a load of 150 pounds. Give us a call at 484-5999 or visit breezeway.com.
6S2E. Oh, and I just got the 9 in time. My word, Matthew, these are wedding rings. It seems Charlie and I aren't the only ones getting married. In fact, this inscription says the happy couple are Leopold Rochester and Minerva Highmore. Lady Highmore and Leopold Rochester were engaged? We knew she and the victim were friends, but it appears their relationship was much more intimate. I agree, Matthew. We must speak with Lady Highmore again.
We're here on the North Shore, but as often the case, we have more rescues on East Shore. Ocean Safety reported 12 rescues on
Let's see what Lady Highmore has to say. Lady Highmore, why didn't you tell Senior Trooper Matthew you were engaged to Leopold Rochester? It was too painful to talk about after hearing the news of his murder. I took a dose of antidepressants right after you left. But yes, Leopold and I fell in love. Quite recently, mind you, practically a whirlwind romance at our age. We became friends soon after I graduated with a French diploma at Concordia University. But life took us down different paths. Then at the World Exhibition, a flame was suddenly kindled between us. We had dinner, we danced. Leopold even bought me a rare stamp from the Kingdom of Mazunda. And you were prepared to tie the knot, despite the Rochester's often sinister reputation? Leopold was different from the other Rochesters. He had a gentle soul. Leopold's love gave me a new lease on life, but alas, he's gone, and now I'm staring into the abyss of loneliness. Now Lady Highmore's in the running.
That's going to move in as we head past, well, likely around 11:30.
Is she the one?
Heading past midnight,
We will see.
Some of that rain could move into town, so we'll have a couple of light showers out there. Our live forecast, why looking a lot like today. So if you like today's forecast, basically a carbon copy forecast for your Friday. Temperature starting out mid to upper 60s, cold in some locations. We'll warm up into the low 80s. We'll have very breezy days. We're doing Black Friday shopping. A lot of wind out there.
Oh, this is the family tree.
For the low 77 by the afternoon. And you get those winds breezy through Saturday, Sunday. Winds are likely to get pretty strong, though. I think throughout the day. This day was getting just slightly, but
There we go. Colored fibers. Now that you've vacuumed up those fibers, Matthew, it's clear this document is the Rochester family tree. It's not surprising a family so obsessed with their own prestige would create a family tree. More importantly, next to Leopold Rochester's crossed-out image, it says, "His death is all my fault." So someone is claiming responsibility for the murder? We must find out who. I agree, perhaps those fibers will shed light on this mystery. Let's get... Sorry guys, I just got it done in time. It's 12 hours long, and that'll do. I'll see you all when... Alright folks, we have returned. Let's get the results of the colored fibers right now.
And that you kicked him and went on shouting until...
Viola, have those fibers helped identify who may have had a guilty conscience about Leopold Rochester's murder?
Why did you continue once you had the boy?
They have indeed. I've determined those fibers are threads of wool, which might seem rather generic.
A sick, twisted individual who had to be...
Except these particular threads consist of 2-ply wool, specifically designed for embroidery.
Well, was that what he was doing?
Embroidery? Why, you're right, Matthew. That's Bernadine Rochester's pastime.
I didn't mean to kill him.
Why would Bernadine Rochester feel guilty about her uncle's death? Let's ask her and find out.
A rebuttal witness. On what ground?
They opened the door.
She feels guilty.
The fitness of homosexuals as parents is an issue. Mr. Albers is entitled to...
Miss Rochester, we found what you wrote on your family tree. What do you mean by Leopold's death being your fault?
You're like any other couple.
It's not what you think, Senior Trooper Matthew, I swear. My uncle was an honorable man, but far too innocent and naive. He didn't understand what his family was capable of.
I was happy with their life the way it was.
But I did, and I should have warned him before he went and helped you expose my brother's misdeeds. Wait, are you saying you think that's why Leopold is dead? You suspect Malcolm murdered your uncle?
His mother was using drugs while she was pregnant with him, which left him with all kinds of problems. Brad was the one who would be up all night with him, warming his formula and taking his temperature. And
that's what I'm afraid of. Malcolm is an awfully violent man who's not to be crossed.
Right.
Perhaps if I'd warned Leopold or had the courage to speak out myself, my uncle might still be alive.
As much as I imagined myself to be this...
These antidepressants are my only solace in the face of all this guilt.
At a certain point I realized that all I really wanted to do was...
Well, she's clear for now.
With Brad and our son.
Matthew, it feels like we've spoken to nearly every member of the Rochester family during this investigation. And yet the identity of Leopold Rochester's killer remains a mystery.
Membership in a Chelsea gym, did not.
Yes.
If anyone held a grudge against the victim, they're concealing it well. If anything, everyone is suspiciously nice about the man. Understandably, the victim's son and brother are acting grief-stricken, while Bernadine blames herself, casting further suspicion on her brother Malcolm.
Yes, he did.
It's almost as if... Is that the telephone, Matthew? Hello, Madeline O'Malley speaking.
Question. Let's let it go at that.
Matthew, you must come quickly. I need your help.
Well, damn,
it's Bernadine. I think she's dead.
My teeth were so messed up.
Hello.
When I would laugh or engage with the players, I did it like this a lot, just because I was embarrassed of my teeth.
Is she dead? Let's find out in Chapter 3. See all that. Okay, folks, we've returned. Let's start Chapter 3 of A Family Affair.
Didn't think he was going to be back.
Let's find out. Good heavens, Chief! Dead? I found the poor dear unconscious in the family's library.
Let me put you on speakerphone, okay?
We're on our way, Chief. Let's go, Matthew.
For $7.99 each. And with Domino's new carry-out insurance, we'll replace your pizza if it gets ruined after you leave the store.
Arthur, darling, you shouldn't have made such a fuss. I'm fine.
Yes, you did.
You were far from fine, Bernadine. I found you unconscious next to a gun. What was I to think? You worry too much. I just took too many antidepressants.
Well, in that case,
It was almost peaceful in the darkness. I was able to forget about this whole tragedy for a while. Come now, Petal. Let's take a walk. You could use some fresh air. Before you leave, Chief, you mentioned something about a gun? Yes, most alarming. I suggest you investigate, Matthew. It's here in the library.
And empathy, and finally to be found guilty. He had the existence of his child concealed from him. Then he was pressed into service by this child's mother to do what she couldn't do for herself. Finally, he was betrayed by this woman, who, having used him, now turned on him. Robert Kelly accompanied Celia Goddard in an attempt to get her child back. Naive, certainly. Misguided, that too. Manslaughter? Not even close. What we have heard here, in the way of proof, is conjecture by a prosecutor, and the self-serving declarations of a woman who cut a deal to save her own life. Based on that,
Oh, there is the gun.
are you to conclude, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Bradford Mandel's death was not the tragic, unforeseen consequence of an emotional exchange between two men, but rather the result of a planned attack by a homophobic bully? A decent, law-abiding man, manipulated into circumstances that got out of control. See him for who he is.
There we are.
A parent like any other. See him for who he is. Judge him fairly. And let him go free.
The central fact in this case is that the defendant couldn't stand the thought of two homosexual men raising his child.
Matthew, this must be the gun Chief Wright spoke of.
That provides justification for a killing.
There's a single bullet in the chamber, with the victim's name carved into it.
Make no mistake.
Someone was planning on shooting Leopold.
What you're saying
A sample of that gray residue on the firearm's handle might tell us who prepared that bullet for the victim.
Justified because gay couples have no
That award was also for the victim, presented to Leopold Rochester, father of Concordian Innovation.
Because that's what this was.
Something appears to be written at the top of the award, so let's retrieve what it says.
On the report of the medical examiner,
And while that locked safe will certainly test your deciphering skills, Matthew, I have every confidence in you. Let's hurry, we haven't a moment to lose.
when nothing else wanted this baby. Mr. Mandela.
Let's do that now. Wow. An angry message. My word, Matthew. Leopold Rochester might have been regarded as the father of Concordian Innovation, but not everyone agreed. Someone's written a message on this award. Hogwash. Leopold has never been anything more than a little fool.
The people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
Let's send this award to Diego, Matthew. Perhaps he can build a profile of who held Leopold Rochester in such low regard.
She owns the world. Was it said that the buffet? Like it was a hotel? It was a hotel. But that's his side of the family, not ours. What? Are you okay? Check the tape. How's the matter with you? It's a red light for crying out loud. Are you talking English? Yes, that's here.
5, 8. There we go. 5, 1, 8, 1. Oh, no, not 8. 5. There we are. Whew. 1, 6, 6, 8, 5. There we are.
Sydney and Sarah. Mr. and Mrs. Rothenberg, we need the police.
GC's leadership offers over 3 decades of experience in delivering real-world...
Lock safes are commonly used to protect items of value, and this document you found inside is no exception. It's Leopold Rochester's will.
Call us today.
I believe you're correct, Matthew. The person who will inherit Leopold's fortune is his son, Rockley Rochester. Wealth is a powerful motive for murder. As a sole heir to the victim's fortune, let's see what Mr. Rochester has to say for himself. Mr. Rochester, we found your father's will, and it appears you'll inherit his entire estate. Naturally, I'm his son after all. And the timing is perfect. Now I have money again to invest in my chocolate factory. Why? Was the chocolate business doing badly? Not at all, but I'm an innovator. I follow my whims and my dreams, which is sometimes expensive. I once spent a year's wages on a stamp because it was perfect for my collection. But Father thought I was reckless, cutting off my finances until I learned responsibility. So I had to take this boring job running the bank. Dad wanted me to prove myself before returning to the factory. But now that he's gone, my problems are too. I can manufacture my new line of chocolate-covered cheese balls in peace. If it turns out you murdered your father for freedom and fortune, you'll quickly discover life isn't always as sweet as you think.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be
Good fellas, on a Sunday night you must watch movie. Great films that touch our lives with memorable moments and unforgettable lines. It's so good, you're gonna watch them again and again. Sunday, it's all about wise guys and big sports and Martin's first season's gritty and fun.
Okay.
This Sunday you must watch movie. Good fellas, Sunday at 7 on Sundance.
She lost a lot of blood. She's in a coma. She got winded. 50-50 at best. What about today? 21 weeks. We were able to deliver her via C-section. Another half hour to go from today. Can you tell us how long she was lying in the trunk after she got shot?
Matthew, let's get this gray residue from that firearm under the microscope. We must find out who is preparing a bullet for Leopold Rochester.
Nice job in the bank. What do you want to? She's in the law department.
We're trying to figure it out.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what your daughter was last night?
These men are detectives.
Okay.
The baby's father.
Are you telling the person who did this?
Got 8.
Wish you and Dina went to dinner last
Javanese tobacco ash. The gray residue you collected from that gun is tobacco ash, Matthew. Soaping tobacco from the island of Java, to be precise. You're right, Matthew. Malcolm Rochester said he smokes a Javanese pipe. So it was Malcolm who loaded this gun with a bullet meant for Leopold? It's high time we found Malcolm Rochester for another interrogation.
By the time we got done with the paperwork, we don't even talk to.
So you look at the bank too.
Oh, the bank check. People's Bank are.
So I'll do the bank looks at my
Dina and Cheryl, myself, Cheryl Trevor.
You better start telling the truth about your uncle's murder, Mr. Rochester, beginning with this bullet Senior Trooper Matthew found on your gun.
Have something to eat. After that, I went out.
Why, that's just... I was furious at Leopold for exposing my indiscretions, so I made that bullet to vent my anger. I was planning on shooting it at a deer to blow off steam. Hunting is a hobby of mine, that and collecting stamps. But I had no intention of actually firing that bullet at Uncle Leopold. I'm a sophisticated man with a university education, not a murderer.
Any problems with it?
After all your lies, why should we believe you?
What time did you two get?
You don't realize how much I suffered after Leopold exposed my shame. I've been taking antidepressants ever since. I know you're desperate to pin this murder on me, Senior Trooper Matthew, but you're not going to drag me down any further. Well, he's running now.
Forensics indicates you shot while she was getting...
Let the angry message run its course. See you when that's done. Okay, folks, we have returned. Let's get the results of the angry message from Diego.
I can't comment on their scientific accuracy or accuracy. The grand jury also reviewed one page.
Have you made any progress with the victim's award, Diego? Have you developed a profile of who could have written that message?
We are happy to comply with any FDA.
Have I ever failed to dazzle you with my keen sense of deduction, Madeline? First of all, Matthew, the tone of the message is very hostile, indicating the author is intolerant and prone to emotional outbursts. The message claims Leopold Rochester has never been worthy of honor, suggesting someone who knew the victim for an extended period of time, like a relative. The key phrase, however, is little fool. The words imply a sense of superiority and authority. Whoever wrote this message is older than Leopold Rochester. A belligerent family member who is older than the victim? Why, that profile matches Horatio Rochester. Perhaps it's all an act. We better find out what Horatio Rochester truly feels about his dear brother.
I don't know of any specific instances where that has happened.
But it is possible.
I suppose.
Meaning that it's possible in your unit, the entire law force, there are more suicides than actually on record.
Anything is possible.
You gave Senior Trooper Matthew the impression you truly loved your brother, Mr. Rochester. However, the message you wrote onto Leopold's award suggests otherwise. That blasted award? Leopold Rochester, the father of Concordian innovation. What nonsense. Excuse me. Nobody knew the real Leopold. He was a complete buffoon, and yet everyone admired him and his crackpot ideas. It sounds to me like jealousy is preventing you from appreciating your brother's success.
Did you not say
Jealousy? Do you think I had time for such petty emotions while holding my family together? with no help from Leopold? He was lost in his inventions, but ever since graduating from Concordia University, I've worked day and night. My only indulgence was collecting stamps. And yet I'm forever painted as the bad guy while Leopold was the universal darling.
Every 12 seconds, the child dies from malaria.
If it turns out your sibling rivalry got out of hand, Mr. Rochester, your days of power and prosperity are over.
Scientific evidence says that it is.
It seems even a man as good-natured as Leopold Rochester cannot avoid crossing someone, Matthew.
What are you talking about?
Leopold's son resented his father's interference, but now rejoices with the fortune and freedom Leopold's death brings.
I'm acting under my own free will. And not a word I said is untrue.
And the victim's brother was envious of Leopold's reputation. Maybe after years of living in his brother's shadow, Horatio took matters into his own hands. If we're to find concrete proof to identify Leopold Rochester's killer, Matthew, we must cover all bases. Let's return to the scene of the crime.
That is not the way the world works. Solver?
Tell me this point to the snack I just
I'm here for more. Oh, for real? What's the point?
It's nice. Relation for a person is a really funny knowledge. Use that. Not to This person become deal with Myers. Be in a mental health facility for at least a year and then tell me how long
When the mess is next. Sexually-based offenses are especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit.
Oh, Ty, where
These
are
their
you?
stories.
There you are. First star?
Where evil lurks. Immorality, adultery, lust. Hey! Why don't you take that out somewhere else, man?
Good eye, Matthew. The torn rag is stained with blood.
Everyone who lives in sin.
If those pieces are connected to the murder, we must put them back together. And I agree. We must leave no stone unturned to catch Leopold Rochester's killer, including that pile of leaves. Let's get busy and crack this case, Matthew. We may well have the vital clue in our grasp.
He attacked her how many times?
She told the EMTs 4 over the past 15 years. It's a first for a stranger rapist. I'm not sure how real this is.
You don't believe her?
She reeks like a wino. I'm waiting for the result on her blood alcohol.
She said that she was raped. She was raped.
It wasn't raped. Don't eat. Wait.
Really? What did you see the whole thing?
The EMTs that were raped. Dr. Tanaka took shards of glass out of the skull. Evidence was taken through the rape kit. There was evidence on the homicide doctors.
How did that hold? Wait. Don't take a shower in case you change your mind.
7.
Lung disease that in severe cases can lead to hospitalization. Causing you to reset the things you enjoy.
This bloody rag appears to be a handkerchief, Matthew, but we've yet to determine whether that blood belongs to the victim. Let's get this to Viola at once.
Helps to help prevent infections from 13 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. You should never seek effect when 13 if you have had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. If you have a weakened immune system, you may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most common side effects were pain, redness and swelling at the injection site, limited arm movement, fatigue, headache, muscle pain, joint pain, less appetite, vomiting, fever, chills, and rash. Help with text against pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Carbon 13.
Here we are.
Nothing gets a reaction like a gift from K Tools, where everything is 25% off. Save 25%.
What's this ornate object you found under those leaves, Matthew? You're right. Whatever it is, it has a Concordian University emblem on it. That's where the killers study. If this object belongs to the killer, it may hold a vital clue to solving this case. Let's have Viola examine it immediately.
All week long. The more you shop, the more Kohl's cash you'll get. No limit. So when you get joy, you get joy. All this week, only at Kohl's.
This disgusting mess puts the ew in mildew. Don't trust it to just any cleaner. Trust mold and mildew stain remover from CLR. CLR.
I'll see you guys when this is done.
Mold and mildew stains. In the
Both
bathroom,
these things are finished. I'll see y'all then.
and does it.
Alright folks, we have returned. Let's get the results of the bloody handkerchief. I have restocked a bit on cash just before starting this video, so it should be okay. I realize my uncle's killer is still at large, Matthew, so I'll keep my analysis of that handkerchief short. First of all, I can confirm the blood type of these stains is a match for Leopold, meaning the handkerchief was discarded by the killer. It's likely they used it to clean their hands after the murder. They shan't wipe away their guilt that easily, Matthew. Fortunately, the killer used this handkerchief to clean something else, to their peril. Upon closer examination, I found the faded imprint of a symbol, the fleur de lis. My conclusion is that this imprint is from a piece of the killer's jewelry, most likely a brooch featuring the French lily. That's a clue even the most elusive killer can't hide, Matthew. They are wearing a fleur de lis brooch.
Not only do I get all my shopping done in a short amount of time, I get money back for doing so. There's no hassles, no gimmicks, nothing.
Easiest way for you to shop online.
Sign up for free. Shop at your favorite stores. Get paid. Join today and get a $10 bonus and paid.
That's good. I can speed it up for 10. Lucky me, I thought I was going to have to wait another 30 more seconds. Have you determined whether this unusual object belongs to the killer, Viola? Most certainly, Matthew. You did well picking this up. This implement is the sheath for the letter opener that was used as the murder weapon. As such, you can be certain the sheath was dropped at the memorial by your killer. Marvelous work! Surely there must be some trace of the weapon's owner. Nothing from the sheath itself. However, caught inside, I found small strands of beige thread. Given the texture and elasticity of the fibers, I determined these threads are beige silk, which means the killer must be wearing that material. So the killer's wearing beige silk, Matthew? No matter what stories they might spin, you'll have them behind bars before you know it.
This guy had a vendetta against all mothers, or this one in particular?
Try as they might to cover their tracks, Matthew. The killer's plans have been laid bare. It's time to make an arrest.
Words on the baby stroller, our mom's no intimate system. Nothing for missing person. And if there is a husband, you might not know if it's back in work. That leaves us with the stroller and the baby.
We're checking the gift registries. This jogger stroller is a huge seller.
For the baby's one, let's get his picture out on the news. Just say the baby was found with one more details. Not many get. Only prints on the note.
It's not Malcolm Rochester.
Well, what about the name? There's no listing in Manhattan for a Rupert Kilmore. The closest one is...
Don't think it's Lady Highmore. It's definitely not Bernadine Rochester.
You got a second?
60 every minute. Unfortunately, this little guy only has 52 hairsprings coming out.
Wait, hold on.
Fourth generation horologist. Nope. What are you in the market for?
Woman.
Who?
We're hoping that you can tell us. Seeing as your name is written on a notebook to kill.
Let me try looking this over again. It's not Rochester.
Tell us, sugar, why would a rapist use a full name?
Rapist?
I have no idea. Kilmore time. Yes, there's Hello?
Not struggling. I'm just looking this over carefully. It looks like...
Once there were some cops so dumb, took hours to get to clue number 1. Mommy's running out of time.
I think it's Horatio Rochester. Yes! It is. Horatio Rochester, you're under arrest for the murder of your brother Leopold. Nonsense! This isn't the first time you've accused me of murder, Senior Trooper Matthew. We've all the proof we need this time, starting with the murder weapon, your Concordia University letter opener. Concordia University? That fine institution has educated thousands of graduates. But this letter opener belongs to you. We found traces of your beige silk cravat inside the sheath. Beige silk? Is that what passes for evidence these days? I expected you'd put more effort into catching my brother's killer. But the evidence doesn't lie. That rare stamp from your collection was your undoing. You used it to post that threat to your brother.
Why were you supposed to win your cross?
Very well, Senior Trooper Matthew. It appears you've won the day. I killed Leopold. It's my own fault I got caught, murdering Leopold with my own hands. Out of pure sentimentality, I figured I owed him that much. What drove you to murder your own brother? Petty jealousy? Hardly. As is my motivation for everything I do, I did it to protect my family's honor. Leopold was a nitwit, but a harmless one, until he decided to air Malcolm's dirty laundry.
And maybe it has something to do with a tailor or a seamstress.
Who was to say what he'd blab about next? He was a liability. Leopold could have dismantled the Rochester's influence. A liability? Leopold came to us in the name of justice. What's justice without loyalty? Leopold betrayed me. I haven't spent my entire life defending this family only to have it undermine everything. Do you think this family would be so wealthy if I hadn't been making deals with bandits, stoking their little war to boost our railway profits? And who but me made a literal deal with the devil to keep our enemies quiet? And what brings it all down like a house of cards? Leopold and his naivety. He must be laughing in his grave. He stabbed us in the back, so I stabbed him to the chest, before the very eyes of our ancestors. So, you murdered your brother and personally masterminded all of those crimes. Yes, it was all me. There's no sense hiding it now. But my empire will never crumble, regardless of what you think you're achieving here today, Senior Trooper Matthew. I hope that delusion helps you sleep at night in prison. Horatio Rochester, you're under arrest.
Front desk addressed to the captain.
Horatio Rochester, at last you stand before this court to face justice for your crimes. Your list of misdeeds is long, not the least of which is the crime of fratricide. I killed my brother, Your Honor, but I did it to preserve the Rochester name. My family is destined to return to rule Concordia, and Leopold jeopardized our rise to power. From where I sit, it doesn't look like you will be rising anywhere. Horatio Rochester, the self-proclaimed patriarch of the Howard dynasty. It gives me great pleasure to sentence you to life in prison for your brother's murder. Never again will the people of Concordia bow down to the will of the Rochesters. You will live to regret this, Senior Trooper Matthew. Concordia would have been better off with the new republic. My stars, Senior Trooper Matthew. Is what I hear true? Did Horatio Rochester murder his brother Leopold? That a man of Horatio's status would be capable of such terrible crimes. Horatio might have pulled the wool over your eyes, sir, but Senior Trooper Matthew caught up with him in the end. Horatio clearly masterminded many of his family's schemes. With him out of the way, the Rochester's reign has come to an end. What is Concordia coming to? What will all this mean for the future? For the time being, we must ensure nobody else in the Rochester family is up to no good. Come, Matthew, our work isn't over. No news is good news. 5-6. Horatio Rochester was the one. Rockley Rochester was cleared early. Malcolm Rochester, no fluid release.
45 minutes.
That was definitely not beige. Bernadine Rochester was cleared from the start. It was Horatio Rochester. See you guys for No News is Good News. Okay, folks, let's start No News is Good News 5-6 for our family affair. Congratulations, Matthew. Horatio Rochester is behind bars at last. It's incredible to think that a man of Horatio's status would murder his brother and be capable of masterminding a multitude of terrible crimes. Senior Trooper Matthew, we cannot rest on our laurels. We've cut off the serpent's head, but we must ensure the snake dies with it. We need to bring an end to the Rochester's reign once and for all. Indeed, Malcolm Rochester in particular is a concern. He was the political force behind the planned Rochester Republic and the bill to abolish the free press. We've already found incriminating evidence on the former senator in the family library. Perhaps there's more to be found. Looking into Malcolm is all very well, but what of his sister Bernadine? I believe her courtship with you, Chief Wright, is merely a ruse, a Rochester plot to spy on the flying squad. I beg your pardon, Deputy Mayor Lawson. I shall have you know our love is pure, and I shall do everything in my power to prove it. Matthew, please join me to talk to Bernadine, and then you and Madeline can search the Rochester Library.
Prevnar 13 is not a treatment for pneumococcal pneumonia. It's a vaccine you can get to help protect against it. Prevnar 13
talk to Bernadine first.
Help prevent infections from 13 strains of the bacteria that cause
Arthur, darling, I cannot bear what has happened to my family. All these murders and misdeeds. I feel like everyone I've ever cared about is either in prison or dead. There, Petal. I know you're going through a terrible time. An innocent entangled in a scoundrel's web. But others are less convinced of your virtue. They say you only accepted my courtship because my position is advantageous to your family. Why, that simply isn't true. I was enchanted by your charms, Arthur. Nobody dances the waltz like you in all Concordia. When we first met, Uncle Horatio was convinced it was a strategic partnership, but I quickly informed him otherwise. Naturally, he was furious, saying I lost my mind. He said my loyalty to the Rochester family was compromised.
Every yank of your tank.
Oh, darling. Some weeks ago, Horatio Rochester even threatened to give me an ultimatum. But with all that's happened lately, it never transpired. He claimed it as something that would make me stop seeing you, Arthur. Perhaps you'll still find it among his belongings, and you'll see I'm telling the truth. Then search his belongings we shall. Come, Matthew, to the cottage.
I have asthma, one of many pieces in my life. So when my asthma symptoms kept coming back on my long-term control medicine, I talked to my doctor and found a missing piece in my asthma treatment with Brio.
Once daily Brio prevents asthma symptoms. Brio's for adults with asthma not well controlled on a long-term asthma control medicine. Brio corticosteroid. Brio won't replace your rescue kit for sudden breathing problems. Brio is specifically designed to open up airways to improve breathing with control 24 hours. Brio contains a type of medicine that increases the risk of death from asthma problems and may increase the risk of hospitalization in children and adolescents.
If you hear my TV in the background, please disregard that.
Like an inhaled corticosteroid. Once your asthma is well controlled, your doctor will decide if you can prescribe a different asthma control medicine like an inhaled corticosteroid. Do not take Brio more than prescribed. See your doctor if your asthma does not improve.
Ask your doctor if 24-hour Brio could be a missing piece for you.
First one.
See if you're eligible to pay no more than $10 a month.
Hi, I'm just looking at my account and I've got all this extra cash back. Yep. Cashback match. Only Discover will automatically match all the cash back you earn at the end of the first year. We match everything for this year. Yeah. All very exciting. I'm gonna spread the news. Spread it wide. It's people. Now you all work here.
New products
feel like I couldn't spend time with my grandson. Now, Depend Fit Flex has their fastest absorbing material inside. So it keeps me dry and protected. Go to depend.com.
Look, Matthew. Bernadine told us to find Horatio Rochester's property, and the suitcase he picked up is precisely that. I can see his initials. Let's rummage through Horatio's personal effects without delay.
Number 6. Jeanette Henley. Called back and managed to escape. Man was wearing a ski mask.
It's considered that she was the last one to be attacked.
Serial killers don't just stop me in the diet. I'm for another criminal. All records from that were arrested after Jeanette was attacked in Peru the last 6 months.
Aha! Straight jacket. How peculiar, Matthew. Is that a straitjacket among Horatio Rochester's belongings? Good heavens, you're right. It's a Gryphon Sanctuary straitjacket, and it was intended for Bernadine. We know Horatio Rochester used the asylum to dispose of his enemies. Is it possible he planned to lock Bernadine away before he closed down that racket? I hope Horatio Rochester has settled into his prison cell, Matthew. We're paying him a visit.
Session yesterday at 6 never showed. Any appointments earlier? Eddie Willis at 5 o'clock.
What's the meaning of this straitjacket, Horatio? Had you planned to lock Bernadine away in the asylum? It appears all my sins are coming home to roost today, aren't they, Senior Trooper Matthew? Very well, then. That silly little girl actually believes she loves you, Chief Wright. And when I asked her to make the most of the situation by spying on the flying squad, she refused. So I was going to offer her a choice, be loyal to the Rochester family or be locked away at Gryphon Sanctuary with the rest of my enemies. But then you people arrested my contact at the asylum, and since then I've had bigger problems besides Bernadine. You despicable man! It warms my heart to know you'll spend the rest of your life behind bars. And you're right, Matthew. This proves Bernadine's innocence in relation to the Rochester's crimes. Let's report these findings to the Deputy Mayor post-haste.
Where was it delivered? I told you we're insanely behind. My truck's loaded up now.
Deputy Mayor Lawson, Senior Trooper Matthew has proved that Bernadine Rochester is innocent of any involvement in the family's misdeeds. I'm listening, Senior Trooper Matthew. This had better be convincing. It has become clear that Horatio Rochester wanted to exploit my courtship of Bernadine Rochester. However, Bernadine defied her uncle and refused. His reaction? To disown the poor woman. And this straitjacket from Gryphon Sanctuary is the proof. Horatio admitted he would have committed Bernadine like the rest of his enemies had we not eliminated the asylum's corrupt staff. And what, Senior Trooper Matthew? Am I to believe the word of one Rochester to exonerate another? As far as I'm concerned, all Rochesters belong in jail. Nevertheless, there's no proof Bernadine committed any crimes, and that straitjacket does speak in her favor. At the very least, I can rely on your forthright commitment to justice, Matthew. Due your steadfast countenance.
This newspaper. These three. How many women do I have to turn to make it all of the victims were raped. RDK, raped, never killed. That was 25 years ago. That would develop a lot of sexual dysfunctions in a quarter century. Were there still any original letters? Every one. Unfortunately, we didn't have the technology back then to do anything with it. Original second victim, same woman, 132 stab wounds.
That detail was never released.
Gloria was stabbed the same number of times, but that's not what killed her. The throat was slit. These stab wounds were all inflicted post-mortem.
Does I know this one?
What can you tell us about the weapon? Sharp, very sharp. CSU used the box to the veins on it. The skin is a little more telling. I'd say something was like scalp.
On her hair, fibers.
Just getting
Ryan through playing his games. Say we pull the old case file and leave it for the victim.
Here we go.
Kept the knife at my throat. The entire time he was raping me. It was in a soda bottle. He started to pour it on me. Splashed some in his eyes.
Capital work, Matthew. That notepad belongs to Malcolm Rochester, and the letterhead indicates it was used when he was still a senator. The most recent message has been torn away, but perhaps you can recover the text imprinted on the remaining page. A thorough dusting will tell us for certain.
When I got home from the hospital, it was waiting for me. But the police told me what the symbol meant.
Oh, to the one who got away.
So he got your postal.
Everything was in it. My driver's license, the house key. I moved out that day, but I'm still terrified to find him.
We need to know that he's resurfaced.
Eleanor Halstead, 74205. Matthew, the former senator's last message reads, Eleanor Halstead, followed by a number. This message must have something to do with the former police commissioner's release of Eleanor Halstead from prison and her attempt on the deputy mayor's life. I agree, Matthew. Let's send this note to Evie and see if these numbers are instructive.
This is what the holidays look like, what the holidays feel like, and what the holidays smell like.
6 hours.
Holiday fragrance collection from Yankee Candle. Everything this season is meant to be.
But I think I'm gonna treat you guys. I'll speed this up.
Adore Me is bringing you bras and lingerie for every occasion. Run the world in seamless t-shirt bras or something go less.
Abby, have you determined the meaning of the numbers Malcolm wrote on this note about Eleanor Halstead? Was this related to her release from prison? I've got answers, Matthew, but it wasn't easy. I cross-referenced the number with all known bank accounts and registered checks, but to no avail. But finally, I realized the sequence is an access code for a wire transfer of funds. Wire transfer? Of course, that's where one can send money electrically, so to speak. Precisely. Once I had the code, I traced a payment of 1,000 shillings from Malcolm Rochester to Thaddeus Mulroney. A payment that obviously concerned Eleanor Halstead. Matthew, this proves Malcolm Rochester bribed the former commissioner to release Eleanor Halstead from prison. I hope you still have your handcuffs. We're making another arrest. This is gonna be good.
Top steak and twisted potatoes at Applebee's. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood.
It's time to arrest Malcolm Rochester. Malcolm Rochester, it was inevitable you'd end up behind bars. Senior Trooper Matthew is placing you under arrest. Whatever for? You've already charged Uncle Horatio with Uncle Leopold's murder, and my other indiscretions were perfectly legal. That may be true. However, we know you paid Commissioner Mulroney to release Eleanor Halstead. We have the wire transfer. Well, Come now, Mr. Rochester. There's no denying you ordered Halstead's release so she could assassinate the deputy mayor. An entirely wasted undertaking. That imbecile botched the job, and now I've no idea where she is. And frankly, I don't see why you're taking loss inside. You'll rue the day you supported him, Senior Trooper Matthew. For now, Mr. Rochester, we shall relish placing you under arrest for bribery and attempted assassination. Come, Matthew, let's celebrate with a bite to eat.
Everyone wants a healthy white smile, but the fact is, just brushing your teeth is not.
Stellar work, Matthew. Malcolm Rochester is behind bars. And we've put out a warrant for the arrest of Thaddeus Mulroney after he accepted bribes to release Eleanor Halstead. It's troubling we have no notion of Halstead's whereabouts, but we shall keep searching. But we can be certain that with both Horatio and Malcolm behind bars, their plans for the Rochester Republic have been thwarted. I always knew those grandiose notions of establishing control of the city would be the ruin of the Rochester family. Just look at us now. Uncle Horatio is in jail, his wife and daughter murdered, my brother in prison too, and his son Archie brutally killed. And now Uncle Leopold's been killed, and his son Larry will only hear about it from a jail cell. This is the cost of this family's mad ambition. I don't know how I'll cope with the shame of this, Senior Trooper Matthew. I understand your feelings perfectly, Miss Rochester. After all, I'm also connected to this family through my biological father. Of course, Miss Pemberton. It turns out in the end that we're cousins. How are we to live, knowing our close connection to a criminal family and its tarnished name? All we can do is learn from our family's mistakes and honor the memory of those among them who worked for the common good, like Uncle Leopold. Honor his memory? What a lovely idea! It would truly help us move forward. I'm sure you can find something suitable among my uncle's things at the house. Then it's agreed. I'll come to search the library with you, Matthew.
Serial killer from the late 70s. You never mentioned it. Awesome. That's funny. Never mind.
short, hasty. That's what most of my reports.
Well, the victim that he interviewed said that he had thick black-rimmed glasses.
It sounds like one of our Humphrey Beck. Works in the morning.
Look at this.
And I can see the clue already.
It's like a scalpel.
But this is another, this is another analysis. I will be letting this run its course.
What's he like to he's a constant reminder. Stuck down here for 20 years like him.
Did you get a bad vibe off?
He's a miserable human being. Says a word, just stares, freaks me out. Have any idea where he's getting information from? Probably sitting alone, finishing off one of his puzzle books he's always working on.
Mark has a penchant for puzzles. Puzzles give us one sense of victory. Possibly.
There you go.
These are the symbols he drew on the victim's feet.
It's a rebus. These pictures should string together to spell out our truth.
He's made murder into a game.
Keen eye, Matthew. That box has Uncle Leopold's picture on it. Let's unlock it to see what marbles he kept inside.
Center.
Exclusive center site. Or some kind of center.
These waves could be an ocean or sea next to a cross.
That's how the cross is small t. Seeds. Seeds. So stick figure stripes. This is the pound.
Surface that be a chain.
The arrow points to an individual link. Lincoln Center. Lincoln Center. Our next clue is under one of the seats at Lincoln Center. One of the dozen houses at Lincoln Center. You're talking thousands of seats. Big roll available.
TMN.
You're executing a search warrant on the puzzle master.
There's a chapter in Uncle Leopold's case, Matthew. Naturally, I have no idea what this device is, but Charlie can undoubtedly determine its function. 6 hours also. Well, this time I will let this run its course. See y'all then. Well, kind of light on that one. I'll let this run. I'm just going to speed this up so when I get this over with. What a marvelous device, Matthew. I've read about them in the science journals, but never dreamed to have one in my lab. Trust someone like Leopold Rochester to be using such innovative technology. I take it you figured out what my uncle's machine does, Charlie. I have. This is a holograph machine, a device used to encode punch cards for computers. Punch cards? Computers? What are you talking about? Computers are the way of the future, Viola. Wonderful machines as big as my lab. These computers must be programmed with instructions. Leopold's machine is how that information is encoded. I believe I understand, Charlie, but have you determined what information was encoded by my uncle? Leopold used this device to maintain his personal records, in particular, a list of fledgling inventors he was corresponding with, young whippersnappers with names like Albert Einstein and Thomas Edison. It appears that Leopold was planning to become their patron, financially supporting their careers. Matthew makes a valid point. Perhaps it could establish a fund in Leopold's name in support of this next generation of inventors. Rockley Rochester inherited his father's fortune. Let's explain our idea to him.
Track down this reporter, this Morty Crab.
Don't know if there's going to be another analysis, but if it's a 9-hour one, then I will let that run its course. Goodness, Senior Trooper Matthew, you just caught me packing. I'm about to return to the chocolate factory. I must say, I'll be happy to leave the bank behind. Being a Rochester and Concordia these days isn't a barrel of gumdrops. That's why we're here, Mr. Rochester. Perhaps you can take the first steps towards a new era for the Rochester family. Not one of tyranny, but of hope. Leopold was planning on financially supporting young inventors. However, with his passing, his fortune now belongs to you. Ah, I see where you're going. I'd be happy to help. As you know, I'm an innovator myself. And now I have more than enough money. I hereby pledge part of my father's fortune to establish the Leopold Rochester Foundation. This will serve to honor the good he has done for Concordia. Take this as my first contribution to the foundation, Senior Trooper Matthew. 20,000. Nice. Thank you very much.
I just had a new world record this month.
Matthew, thank you for helping me establish a fund to honor Uncle Leopold's memory. The Rochesters' wealth and influence can be used for progress and peace. Although most of that family was rotten, it's important to remember that not everything in the world is black and white, and there were good apples among the bad. Hear, hear. Like my darling Bernadine. You know, Matthew, I never thought we'd find ourselves so in love, but all I want is to stay by her side and support her. Of course, she has difficult times ahead. Her family's downfall is absolute. The Rochesters have held their grip on Concordia for so long. Their demise feels like the end of an era. Who knows what lies ahead? But come what may, I say you've earned a round of congratulations, Matthew. We can sit back and... Matthew, Chief Wright, the celebrations will have to wait. We just received word from City Hall. Mayor Castletown has been murdered. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, last week. He was waiting outside the stage door for an autograph.
So the case is... So this case is over, and Mayor Castletown is the next one that we will have to autopsy probably on Thursday. What a change of events here. Case 54 of 60. November 30th. That's 5 days from now.
Where's Jeanette? Sorry.
Only 2.
It's not being on a show that runs that long.
Definitely, I'm gonna have to wait at least a few more sticker packs. 4 new ones here. Definitely have to wait another set of sticker packs here. 3 new ones. 94. Okay. We are coming down to the very end of this season.
Nothing gets a reaction like a gift from K Jewelers, where everything is 25%.
That's gonna do. I'll see you guys on the 30th of November.
November 17th to 26th at K, the #1 jewelry store in
See y'all later.